Goedemiddag, and welcome to this We Are Eurovision reaction and review. So today, the Netherlands, the second act that revealed the fact that they were actually going to participate in Eurovision. O'G3NE from the Netherlands have announced their song today. So let's get into Lights and Shadows by O'G3NE. Oh my god, it's like pop country ballady. Good pop country. Okay, so the Netherlands have sent some relatively decent entries over the last 5 years, and while this isn't like Birds, this is definitely no, like, it's not as low as like Walk Along was. Their first half in the semi, which does worry me a little bit. Okay, we just had a key change, didn't we? Whoa! Holy shit, okay. This is getting good. Whoa, another key change, what the? People are going to call this one a ballad because it started slow, but I don't think this is as much as a ballad as even I thought it was going to be. Welcome back to Eurovision, O'G3NE, or as you were known in 2007 when you entered the juniors, Lisa, Amy, and Shelley. Which are their names? I can't remember which order they go in, but you know what? That impressed me quite a lot. Sure, it started at this point where I'm like, maybe this isn't like the Netherlands' best entry in the last 5 years, but I got to the point where I'm like, oh, wow. I'm really extremely impressed by the song that I just heard. So, in terms of what I expected from them, I'm really not sure exactly what I expected. When I heard that it was a ballad, I was expecting something a little bit much more down-tempo than this kind of song. So, you know what? It's not a ballad per se, it's kind of mid-tempo, but people are still going to label it a ballad just because it starts slower. Wow, I genuinely don't know what to say right now about the O'G3NE song. So we're going to go into it again, and we're going to see exactly what I think of it when I have to tear it apart. So I wrote down something about this being a country song, and I'm kind of like, the only reason I think that is because of the Dixie Chicks, and I'm not quite sure why. I don't know why, but I really adore this song already, which is kind of hard for me for a second listen. I love how they're all sisters, and they look like sisters, but also they look different enough that you're not going to be like, wait, which one was that? Because I've had that problem with supergroups before, like, they've all been different, but I've thought, oh, which one is that? Yeah, I love how the lighting is getting more and more orange as the song goes along, and I will be talking about that a lot. So, I genuinely do not know where to begin on this one. That was brilliant. Okay, but to be fair, let's give this the review that everyone else would get. Advantages: there are strong vocal harmonies. There may have been a tiny bit of vocal processing going on in the background of that track, but if there was, then I feel like it was to enhance the sound of the performance in the music video. I don't think that they actually needed vocal enhancing. I think that it was just to make it sound like there were more people singing while there were only 3 of them recording those vocals. But you know what? Maybe they did. Maybe they did need it a little bit. And that will harm them if I was just not making up. Because those harmonies sounded really tight. Like, almost inhumanely tight. To the point where I question whether or not they were actually real. But you know what? The thing is, they could be real. And I kind of hope that they are real. Just because of how it managed to sound. Now, I would really like to stress that these 3 know the performance game. In case you didn't know, these 3, the O'G3NE took part in Junior Eurovision in 2007, won the Voice of the Netherlands in 2014, and were selected to represent them in 2017 by an internal selection. In the last 5 years, I don't think that the Netherlands have purposely selected bad singers. So I do think these ones do have vocal talent, and I really should have, when they were announced, looked at some of their The Voice performances in order to determine whether or not they were extremely capable vocalists. And you know what? I feel like even if they aren't like the strongest vocalists that we ever have, they know how to make it look good to the camera. Here there is a strong visual style. The song starts off in your blue tones, grows towards your orange tones. It's the kind of song where it starts off slower, but as the song builds to a happier and happier place, you start adding in more elements of warm lighting, and to me, that kind of thing, that is how you correlate the music to the visual. And I love it when performances do things like this. I feel like this is a kind of composition that we could have heard a version of this in 2002. But I feel like lights and shadows have been given enough of a 2017 production that we don't actually really notice it unless we're trying to find something to describe this song, as this feels like it could be played on the radio as is at the moment. My only thing about that is that I just don't quite know what radio standards are like for pop-ish country power ballads. I guess this is a power ballad. It's a technical masterpiece. There weren't very many places where the harmonies were out of line or it sounded like O'G3NE were kind of lost. No, this sounded very powerful. And to me, that is the hallmark of, well, a performance that is going to do very well on at least the juries. I'm not quite sure how this is going to go for the televoters quite yet. We'll have to see how it does in the Dutch charts, because I'm fairly sure the single has been released, and you know what? Usually success in your own home country, and Belgium, by the way, because usually the Dutch and northern Belgium, and I cannot remember the name of the region of Belgium that's north that speaks the Dutch-ish language. It could be Flanders, but I could be wrong. Anyway, I feel like that region, those two regions are going to be indicative of how this goes once it reaches Eurovision in the televote. Now this one's a slightly controversial point, and I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to include this point or not, but I felt like I was given a winner feeling by this song. What I mean by a winner feeling is, if this had the end credits of Eurovision rolling over it, I wouldn't quite complain about that. Now, I haven't actually heard many songs this year that I would even have dared to say that about. There have been quite a few strong entries that I will listen to until, like, the end of at least this year. But I don't know how many of them I would say I would, like, I don't know how many of them I would be willing to say have a winner feeling. And to be honest, maybe I'm just overhyping this, but I think this has hit potential. Now, I have not exactly liked a Dutch entry straight away. From 2013 was like the last one that I liked straight away. So for me to say this about a Dutch song, it's either going to say that this is going to flop majorly and my tastes are out of line with the Netherlands, or this one is going to do really well, like unprecedentedly well. Who knows? And we'll know in a couple of months, actually. Eurovision is close. So, what are the disadvantages to this song? One of the major points that I personally thought was this has no instrumental start. And look, for a group like O'G3NE, who supposedly have their level of performance, like, who supposedly have their level of, like, experience in performing, I don't think this is going to be that much of a problem. It still could be. Don't get me wrong, I don't think that the Netherlands are going to walk through this completely. I feel like there may be a couple of times where they do miss that start. They do miss the point in time where they actually have to get it right. But, and this is the thing I want to stress, because if you get it wrong at that very, very first bit, getting back on track is a little bit harder than it seems. This one's going to suffer the another ballad syndrome, and I'm fairly sure that when I was first reacting to it, that's what I thought too, and that's what I said to the camera too. But then I started listening to it more and more, and it's like, no, it's not another ballad if you give this the time of day. But that's not gonna stop people complaining, Eurovision is so validating this year, why there's so many ballads in Eurovision? Like, guys, you just stop. It's not because there's so many ballads in Eurovision, it's because everyone thinks that a ballad is going to do well after this, and this is going to get one of those fandom opinions where it's like, ew, a country song, because, you know what, people, for some reason, they want diversity in the contest, and when they get it, they're like, it's like, yeah, my thing is, sure, there are some genres of song that I don't like, but when I get to them, I'm like, this is not my thing. I'm cool with it existing in the contest, it's just not my thing. And I'm trying to be more receptive to those entries this year, because last year there were quite a few entries where I was like, no, not my thing, hating on it. And then I'm like, but even things you don't like have strong points. And so I would urge people in the fandom not to be like, oh, this is another country ballad, because you know what, just give it a chance for its own merits and not in relation to the rest of the competition. So, if you have an opinion on this song, please feel free to tweet it to @WeAreEurovision or leave it below in the comments. So, what are my scores for the Netherlands? My score for the Netherlands: first listen, 10 out of 10, second listen, 10 out of 10, and third listen, 10 out of 10. A 10 out of 10? This is a complete 30 out of 30. And that kind of scares me. You know what? I would listen to this. This is probably going to be one of the few entries this year that I'd actually put almost straight away into my normal rotation. And for me, that's a bit weird, but you know what? I feel like O'G3NE deserve it this year. Good luck, the Netherlands, and do pobaczenia.